But Rye, I thought you said you weren't going to do Vendreads. I thought you had a different deck that you're going to do Ryise to KOG. I lied! Alright, okay. So yeah, obviously on stream before, earlier in this month, I said that I was not doing a Ryise to KOG Vendread, although I was very interested in doing a Ryise to KOG Vendread. I was actually doing Ryise to KOG Fortune Ladies, which is a very different deck than what I normally play. It's much more of a mellow deck, much slower paced to play, and it's definitely another one of those expensive decks, kind of in the same vein of Six Samurai, where it doesn't really get going until you've spent like 20,000 gems on the deck. And kind of in the state that Duel Links is in, I didn't really want to commit that many hours, you know, anywhere from 40 plus hours to hit Ryise to KOG. And when I saw the Vendread deck list do so well over in our tournaments, you guys know, well, some people know, Vendreads is actually my second favorite deck of all time. I made an in-depth guide for it. I made one of our original videos that we ever put on this channel was me getting King of Games with Vendreads on my normal account. So I couldn't help myself, basically, is where I'm getting at, and decided, you know what, I'm gonna show people just how good this rogue deck is in the ladder, right? So you can see here, I hit King of Games. Like you can see from the title, it took less than a week. It took 6 days in total, 10 straight wins all the way, 133 total wins. And I just wanted to show you guys some of the stats that I went over in here for you. Total number of packs opened, 325. That comes out to roughly, I think it's like 16,000 gems, but it was under the half-off gem sale. The only thing was the first box to get the Sonic Birds, though. So only one box was under half-off gem sales. So if you change up how I do the dream tickets, which we'll talk about later, you're going to be looking at roughly, without the gem sale, 15,000 gems, but I probably spent 12,000 in total on this account. You can see that I played PvP duels 176, and of those 133 victories. That is over a 75% win rate, which is absolutely nuts for this deck. Hit King of Games, like I said, in 6 days, not even a full week after the account's creation. I originally created Fortune Ladies at the beginning of the month, and I had intended to play it through. I think I got to Platinum with Fortune Ladies before ultimately deciding to make the switch, just because I was getting bored with the deck. Definitely going to revisit it in the future, for sure, because it's definitely a coggable deck. Just didn't want to do 2 long grinds in a row, basically, is where my mindset was with that. But in any case, Ryise to KOG Vendreads, let's get into it. Of course, as always, before we continue, like, comment, subscribe, make sure to share the video. These videos, again, take the most time and effort to make. While this one, I blasted through the actual KOG process because I didn't have to farm as many gems. Actually putting the video together still takes a significant amount of time, not to mention all the time I spent with Fortune Ladies that didn't really amount to anything right now, but hopefully will amount to something in the future. So if you like this type of content, please like, comment, subscribe, share, all that stuff. You know, all that stuff might seem minor and small, but every individual subscription really helps and really shows us what you guys like watching, so we can provide that content for you guys. So please make sure, because again, lots of hard work, and we want to see that hard work pay off. So pros and cons. Pros, it's extremely cheap deck. Mini box and then main box that you can either do your dream tickets on, or you can spin 50% gem sale to get Sonic Bird. Extremely easy, and extremely easy to start playing the deck, at least at a beginner level. Really not that hard for you. And then, of course, it being a rogue deck, no one reads. Nobody reads what these effects do. So quite a few of your wins are going to be just purely misplay from your opponent, and this deck being kind of on the low-key end, it's not exactly a deck that I'm expecting to all of a sudden blow up out of nowhere. It's a deck that'll always kind of be in the rogue shadows unless they get support and everyone starts realizing what they do and kind of goes mainstream from there. On the con side, it is kind of hard to master, and what I mean by that is sometimes you can kind of get lost in the sauce. You have to, it's no one reads it, but you have to make sure you read it. So you got to remember what all your different effects do. You got to remember all the different levels that you have. Vendread Evolution, for example, sends from the deck, but there's, you know, different cards you can send from your deck, and, you know, when you're tweaking the deck in the future, if we ever change the list, you know, you may accidentally put out a card that you needed for your Vendread Evolution to work properly and not realize it until several games later. So that's always a thing to keep in mind. And then just, it's a ritual deck, and ritual decks in general are kind of just forgotten when it comes to Duel Links. It's you know, the Sonic Bird is not exactly an amazing card to get, but you pretty much have to get it because we don't have things like Manju and stuff like that. So, you know, and if you ever plan on playing a different style of deck, ritual decks don't really teach you many of the common common things about Yu-Gi-Oh! So, you know, not exactly the greatest thing to have when you're trying to learn the game in general, I would say. Now, the plan for making Vendreads is a lot more straightforward than a deck like Six Samurai. This is a deck that pretty much all comes out of one single mini box, and then from there you can pretty much augment to however you want to augment to. The build I chose was very, very inexpensive. It was literally just the mini box, and then from there a Sonic Bird, or two Sonic Birds from Ultimate Rising, which is on the 50% gem sale this month specifically. So that was a huge boost in getting that farm. But even if it wasn't, in all reality, going after the two Sonic Birds is actually not that bad. You could, for example, just put more gems into Curse of Dread, get everything that you need out of there, and then spend your two dream tickets on Sonic Bird if you were to follow what I did in this guide specifically. But again, this deck is so good for how cheap it is. The Curse of Dread mini box gives you all of the core cards, and I did make an in-depth guide to Vendreads, so I'm not going to go super in-depth on how this deck works. I'll definitely put a link down in the description on exactly how you should be playing this deck. But just to kind of give you a quick overview and kind of what cards we're looking for. Of course, we're looking for 3 of the Vendread Slayer. He's kind of your go-to starter, so we definitely want 3 copies of him. If we need to, we can also invest our dream tickets into getting this, because we are backed up by that 50% gem sale right now. We want at least 2 copies of the Executor, which is a rare, so shouldn't be too bad, but sometimes rare can be a little tricky when it comes to mini boxes, which is what's actually something that I encountered with my ritual spell. I actually had to go back in because I only had 2 by the end of the journey, so I had to get more. We want at least 1 Battle Lord. This shouldn't be too much of a problem. By the time we get all these other cards, we should have at least 1 of these Battle Lords. We're looking for 1 Vendread Revenants, which is an SR card. We're going to be really clutch for getting rid of those special summoned monsters. We want the Vendread Hound Horde, which is a rare, so that should be really easy to do. This is super important for all those back row decks. If we can pick it up, a Vendread Anima, it's a normal, so that should be no problem. This will be very nice for when we don't have the Sonic Birds, really nice replacement until we do get them. We want triple copies of both of our ritual spells, the Evolution and the Origin. They both go hand in hand. Again, check that video in the description if you want an in-depth look at how Vendreads work properly, but we do need them both at 3 to make this function, and at least 2 of the field spell, which again is a normal. So no issues in getting that. And then flipping over to the Ultimate Rising box, we're just looking for Sonic Bird. that's all we care about. There are other cards in there that we can get, like Sphere Karibo and stuff like that. That'll help the build along. But this build should not take a significantly long time to finish. So it should be a very, very clean process to kind of make our way from there. And I mean, that's pretty much it. I mean, there are further plans that I could have taken the deck in getting Exceed monsters, but by the time I even started considering what Exceed monsters were super important to get, which by the way is the box that has both the M7 and the Heliopolis. That's an amazing box to get to your Exceed monsters. I was already king of games. This deck doesn't really need the Exceed monsters, nor do you really get into opportunities that require said Exceed monsters. You will climb very, very fast with this deck. It's a deck that relies on your opponent misplaying a whole bunch. You know, even if they don't misplay, the locks that you cause with targeting is one of those things where if you're actually able to pilot this deck, you will be able to just naturally lock out most of the meta decks. And you know, what's the most common strategies to stop that with, like Drowning Mirror Force and stuff like that, is very easily counterable with your Hound Horde, or Hound Horde rather. I call it Hound Horde in stream, sorry. And you know, that just basically banishes the background. You don't have to deal with drowning and floodgates and stuff like that. It's much easier to kind of fix your way through the duel. Now, in practice, what happened is going through the Curse of Dread mini box. My original plan was to go through the mini box and try to get as many of the cards as possible, and then sink my dream tickets into that Sonic Bird to try and avoid Ultimate Rising altogether. It didn't quite work that way. I actually got one of every card that I needed from Curse of Dread with 800 gems left over, which is pretty good, all things considered. I was able to get one of everything, so one of Slayer, one of Revenants, one of the Origin ritual spell. So what that meant is I could save both of the UR dream tickets that I get, sink both of the UR dream tickets into getting 2 more Slayers to get 3 Vendreads Slayer, and then save my 2 SR dream tickets, and then put them into getting the Origin. And then from there, I would be able to have the full Vendread list, and I would be able to just fully go into Ultimate Rising with my remaining gems that I farm from the account. Which is pretty funny to say, even under the 50% gem sale, the 2 Sonic Birds that I had to get took me a long time to actually get. I think the first one I got within the next 1,000 gems or so. But that final Sonic Bird, I didn't get my final Sonic Bird until I was already in Legend. I was in Legend 1 when I got my second Sonic Bird. So most of the gems that I spent in this Rise to KOG ended up going towards the Sonic Birds, which is kind of hilarious when you think about it. Because under the half-off gem sale, the Ultimate Rising is basically just another mini box, right? To go through it, the whole thing is the same cost of going through a mini box with a half-off gem sale, and it just screwed me so hard that it ended up taking so many of my gems. So I actually got really unlucky with Ultimate Rising. If I were to do this differently without the half-off gem sale, I would have just continued putting all those gems into the Vendread box, and then eventually transitioning my my dream tickets into those Sonic Birds, because in the other box, there isn't too much. I mean, you can get a Sphere Karibo, which is what I used until, because the SR Dream tickets, you don't get them until 4 days into your login rewards. So it's actually funny, 4 of the 6 days it took to get Rise to KOG, I didn't even have all of my ritual spells. I was just playing like that. I had like 1 Sphere Karibo that I got from Ultimate Rising. I put that in there. I had Anima that I just put that in there as well, and then like 1 Sonic Bird. So I was playing like janky Vendreads until the 4th day passed and I got all my dream tickets from there. So that was pretty much the lead up going in pretty much all the way through Platinum. That's kind of where we were looking at. All right, let's talk about what everyone wants to talk about, the match-ups. Now, last time I did this, I did good coin flip and bad matchups, but obviously with a 75% win rate, and most of those losses being early on before the deck was even complete, before I got those dream tickets, there isn't a whole lot to talk here because against every deck I had a positive win rate when you looked at it. So I figured we'll just talk about in general how the deck fares against certain decks. This is the final deck list that I did end up using. It is pretty much card for card except for the extra deck because I didn't need the extra deck. The one in my Vendread guide, which is down in the description down below, that video goes very in depth on how to actually play this deck. I'll briefly touch on all the cards. But for all the intricate combos and everything like that, definitely check out that video down there. So, Vendread Slayer, we need 3 copies of this. This is what we need to get our searches going, to tribute them off. The Vendread Executor, that's what we're going to need to cause our locks. That'll stop opponents from being able to target us. Battle Lore to turn off hand traps, turn off traps, anything like that. This is actually card actually got me King of Games, so you'll see the replays that this card actually got it for me. Came in clutch so many times. You don't really see this card in tournaments, but I heavily recommend that you play Battle Lord when you play in ladder. The Sonic Bird, that's super important for searching your spells, for consistency. This is a ritual deck. So you know that is one of the downsides of having a ritual deck. It's extremely bricky. So any consistency card that you could have for Sonic Bird, or with Sonic Bird rather, is a really good choice. Vendread Revenants, if he's on the field, you tribute him off. You get to banish a special summon monster every turn. We have the Jin Demolisher of Rituals. Any monster summoned or any monster ritual summoned with this cannot be targeted by opponent's card effects. So if we summon an Executor, no more targeting anywhere on our board. Really powerful. Hound Horde, same thing as Revenants, except it banishes back row once per turn, both on both you and your opponent's turn. We have the 2 ritual spells, Vendread Origin, Vendread Evolution. Vendread has to be exact. Reverend Origin just can go over. And then more importantly, Vendread Origin you can banish from the graveyard to protect your monster from destruction, which is what separates this deck from something like a Lunalights deck, which is a little bit more fragile and can lose to things like Lightning Vortex from there. Then we have our Vendread Knights, which helps us search our Vendread monsters, so all the rituals and the Revenants and the Hound Horde, of course. We do also have our XC deck, the Nightmare Shark. I got the Nightmare Shark for free from the tickets, not Dream tickets, normal tickets. So I put him in there. I think I summoned him once in a duel that I didn't even need to summon him for game. So not super critical that you have this card, but if you do have it, I mean, it's free. You should have it. So why not toss it in there for you guys. In terms of matchups, again, with a 75% win rate, I didn't really have any bad matchups, but this is kind of some of the meta decks that I ran into, just to kind of give you a decent idea as to what we went through. In terms of having good matchups, Blue Eyes White Dragon. I don't know why people still play Blue Eyes White Dragon on the ladder, but this deck absolutely destroys Blue Eyes. The only way Blue Eyes can beat this deck is specifically if they go first, if they have access to Karma Cut, and if you don't have access to your Jin going second. So if you go first, you win automatically. It's an instant FDK. If you go second, you open Jin, you win. They can't Karma Cut you, you just automatically win. They can't, even if they use things like, you would think things like Twin Burst Dragon would be really strong to banish your non-targetable, non-destroyable monsters, but you have Revenants to banish that monster. You would think that the back row would become a problem if you know down the road, like their Ultimate Providence, stuff like that, you banish it with Hound Horde. This deck just, it's not a good deck anymore. And if you play something like Vendreads, you will absolutely destroy it from there. There is also the Gagagas, the Onomatopoeias. Now, funny enough, this deck was manufactured to beat Onomatopoeia. The original design behind it. That's why the tournament build doesn't use the Battle Lord, uses the Executor. It just turbos out to beat Automats. So this actually ends up being a good matchup. The Automats have a hard time, they can't really target you because you have a board that's untargetable. Even if they go first and pop your Ritual Cage, just being able to sit on your Jin is really good. they just in general do not have the resources to take you on unless you heavily brick. That it's just a hard matchup for them. Then you have Thunder Dragons. Thunder Dragons is an interesting case, is almost a coin flip, but not quite. They have a lot of targeting effects, which again, you are really good at setting up anti-targeting. And then on top of that, Levianeer, which is their only non-targeting destruction, cannot destroy your monsters while Ritual Cage on the board, so they have to commit to destroying your Ritual Cage with their first Levianeer, and then once they do get to your monster, they have to go through Vendread Origin, which protects your monsters. Not to mention that you banish their special summon monsters with your Revenants. And they don't have any defense against you because you can just summon Battle Lord, turn off hand traps, and then swing for game every single time, so they can't even play passively against you. So really, they don't they don't have it. They really just fold at the end of the day. Even if they high roll, they still can't do much from there. For coin flips, I actually forgot to put a picture up on here. My bad. Gaia is one of the coin flips that I was going to put along with Harpies. Gaia, if they pop your Ritual Cage early, and then they have a pretty decent setup board with like Soldier Gaia and stuff like that, can be a bit annoying and can outpace you before you even get to a point where you can win. Same with Harpies, if they go first and pop your Ritual Cage, which is super easy for them to do, and you don't have Jin in your hand to follow up, it's hard to establish a board. Both decks immediately fold if you open up Jin, regardless if you go first or second, you immediately kill them with the Jin. They can't do anything unless, even if they side things like, or not side things, but you know, play things like Lightning Vortex, it's not enough to defeat this deck specifically. So their hope is that it really just comes down to who goes first and who bricks, or which, you know, obviously is going to be Vendread more often than not. Both these decks are not bricky decks. So it really just comes down to who goes first and, you know, what cards you're able to establish on the board. Most of my losses came from Harpies or Gaia, especially in the beginning. And usually because they went first and just opened better than me. And then in terms of bad matchups, the only thing I ran into that was actually like bad and was pretty much unplayable was Six Samurai. And I know that's kind of funny because obviously I did Ryise to KOG Six Samurai. But, you know, I know things like Witchcrafter and stuff like that should be pretty bad too, but I didn't run into a single Witchcrafter. I actually ran into Gravekeepers, which gave me some trouble, but I ended up clutching that out. You know, any Necro Valley deck, you know, can be annoying, but I personally did not lose to any crazy Necro Valley decks. I might have lost to one Gravekeepers really early on, but again, that was before I had my full deck, so half Necro Valley, half not having a full deck. But Six Samurai, even with the full deck, was so bad. I was winning against this guy, and then the Shien comes out, and you can't Ritual Summon anymore. Vendread usually Ritual Summons once, twice max per turn, sometimes 3 times, but usually twice per turn. And if you lose one of your Ritual Summons, you lose a monster, you lose your resources. There's so much you lose from getting a Ritual spell negated. So if they go first, they set up and that's the other thing. Dual Wield is always live because the Ritual Cage is always on the board. So the moment you play a card, their Dual Wield is ready to go. So you can't really play around Dual Wield either. And even if you have Jin, so you need to have Jin in your opening hand, and you have to have 2 ritual spells and a ritualable monster to take out Six Samurai reliably. It's demanding a god hand every single time when you go up against this deck, and you won't have a god hand every single time. I did not beat a single Six Samurai that I ran into in ladder. I think I ran into 3 in total, and they all beat me. It just felt impossible to do anything. So, not a matchup that I'm hoping to repeat anytime soon. Here I've got just some replays that happen kind of in different ranks, mostly in Legend, I believe, so not too much commentary on this part of the video. If you want to skip ahead to the KOG rank up matches, there's going to be a little bit more commentary there before showing off the actual replays towards the end. I'll put a timestamp down below. Alright, and now for the actual replays. These are the 5 last replays I had going into King of Games. I was already on a 5-win streak up into this point. So it was looking pretty good for me. I was pretty confident that we would get King of Games, and we pretty much got it our first try. We didn't have to do 2 tries like with 6 Samurai. So I'm just going to describe all 5 in a row while the footage plays, and you can kind of watch as it goes through. My first game was a disconnect. You know, Konami, we take those. They got to fix their servers. You know how it is. We get screwed up by them, but sometimes we take them. So I think it was like a sub-terror deck or something, but he didn't even play. Second deck was a bricked Ryise player who kept trying to set his baby and try to get his searches going to try to really get something going. Ended up just summoning Battle Lord, declaring monster every time and swinging into him so he could never get any of his searches or anything off, so he remained bricked and was never able to unbrick. Simple game from there. In general, Red Eyes is super easy to beat. Even if he was able to bring out a Red Eye Slash with protection, Battle Lord prevents the Red Eye Slash from activating, then you can kill him, or Revenants, target them, whatever you wanted to do from there. Third matchup was Gaia, and you know, he went first, so I was getting a little worried, but ends up he doesn't have any back row, just summons the Gaia itself in defense mode. He ends up popping my Ritual Cage, which is irrelevant with the hand I had. I was able to establish double Executor, which causes the Executor lock, which means nothing can be targeted, and the rest of the duel is just him pretty much struggling to figure out something to do, and ultimately realizing he literally can't do anything against Executor, double Executor board. So he scoops it up, says, I can't do anything about this, and that ends up being a super easy win after that. Fourth matchup was Desk Bots, which actually ironically ended up being the hardest match I had in my KOG. My Hound Horde was in the graveyard and it got hit by an Ultimate Providence. And the Ultimate Providence stopped him from coming back. So it all came down to Battle Lord turning off those crazy traps. Even though I couldn't be targeted, I didn't know if he had something like a Drowning Mirror Force or something like that. And then when the big 004 came out, I had to start declaring monster effects. So I had to pray that he didn't have Drowning and I could just kill him over, or not Drowning, sorry, Wall of Disruption, and just kill him over his low-level monster. But he ends up misplaying and swinging into my Executor, not my Battle Lord, who Battle Lord is not protected by the Origin, so he could have easily killed it over the Executor, and I really would have been screwed at that point. I'd have to just keep bashing my head in until I'm out of Origin, so I probably should have lost that duel, funny enough, when I think about it. But here we are, baby, you know, no one reads. That's the #1 rule of Vendreads. And then the final game, hilariously enough, was Thunder Dragon. No one wants to see Thunder Dragon in their rank-up game except me, baby. He goes turn 1, says, I'm going to pass my turn. I'm Thunder Dragon. I have probably 6 hand traps in hand. You can't do anything to me. I look at my hand. I see that I have Battle Lord plus 1 more monster. And that was the end of the game. I literally summoned Executor. I summoned Battle Lord. Battle Lord declare a monster. He can't activate any hand traps, can't activate anything like that. Swing for game. Caught him completely by surprise. Huge misplay on his part. He should have at least set his Sphere Karibos, and even then, that would have actually let him live. Doing nothing obviously makes him lose, but hey, he didn't know he was up against Vendreads. He probably thought it was Cyber Angel or Megalith or something. I don't know, but there you go. Battle Lord clutching up the KOG for us. Easy win from there. Now we come to the point where, is this deck worth it, Ryise? Should I build this as a free-to-play player, as a brand new player? Should I just go for this deck? I mean, this is insane. You got King of Games with a 75% win rate. You got King of Games in under a week total play time. 13 hours in total of playtime according to Steam. That's including me capturing footage, so it's probably even less. That's like 2 hours of gaming a day. Not really that much if you think about it. Is it worth it? And that is a difficult question to answer. My stance on if you are a free-to-play player and you're totally going to be free-to-play, you shouldn't even focus on getting King of Games in the first place. King of Games is kind of just something to do for fun, rather than to show that it actually takes skill. It's more about a marathon rather than, you know, actually being good at the game. So if I were you, I would personally focus more on getting staples and preparing for the new world and the new Book of Moon box from there. If you don't care about that stuff, if you literally just care about getting King of Games and showing off to your friends, this deck is super easy to pilot once you understand the basics of it, which again, follow the link in the description. I do a whole in-depth guide on how to actually play the deck, rather than telling you my adventures of making a new account to KOG. You can follow that. If that's all you're looking for, yeah, go for it. I mean, this deck really was very simple to play. I felt like I was in control of every duel. I didn't really ever feel super frustrated with how bricky it gets, and it does get bricky a lot. So that's, you know, that's saying something that I'm able to kind of meander my way through it. And yeah, overall, you know, it is a good deck. It's better than Six Samurai, that's for sure. Way cheaper and way better. So if you know, this is probably going to be one of the best decks I've ever actually played for the Ryise to KOG series. And you know, to be fair, at the same time, this is my second favorite deck, and it's my second most KOG deck of all time. So there are probably some games that I'm going to win that you may not win as a new player, because you don't know some of the more in-depth mechanics that come in Duel Links. But I would say overall, the deck is very newbie friendly once you kind of get past the learning step of the actual deck itself. So do I recommend it? Absolutely, but I would only recommend it if you don't really super care about having like an amazing account. You just want to have one good deck to get an easy King of Games from there. It's definitely not the way I would start a new account. It's just a fun deck that I would build. Maybe if you have spare gems, or you you know, don't really care about having meta decks and you prefer to play road decks or something like that, I'd probably go for it and then at that point. But that's going to be it from me. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Like, comment, subscribe, let me know. Again, it's a lot of hard work to put these videos together. You know, I don't know if I'm going to do a Ryise to KOG every single month, because, you know, the game is in kind of a boring state right now, and I'm assuming by next month I'm going to be looking more to do content that comes with the new world rather than content with the old content that we have. So, you know, I'm not 100% sure if I'll do a Ryise to KOG every single month, but just show me your continued support with the series. The more support it gets, the more positive feedback we get, the more likely I am to make more videos like this. And that's really it. You know, join the Discord, subscribe to the YouTube. You guys know the drill at this point. I am Ryise. This was Vendreads. Till next time. See ya.